Now joining us, Congressman Tim Ryan from Ohio to help us break this down. Congressman Ryan, welcome back to our election coverage. It's always good having you on these nights.
You know, I feel like it's been too long, Jake.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
You know, I'm watching you on, and I'm thinking I knew this, or not Hardball, Keith Olbermann, and I'm thinking I knew you back when.
That's absolutely true. We got to have you on MSNBC as well.
Congressman Ryan, you win tonight.
Yeah, I won.
Nice work. Nice work.
Congratulations. They said coming in that Tim Ryan's seat is a bellwether.
Yeah.
So if,
Congressman, you're going to have to make some new friends. I don't want to be the first person to break that to you. I don't know if
Why
you're
is
watching.
that?
Well, because some of your friends might not be coming back to the office next month.
Well, it's gonna, it looks like we're gonna lose a few seats here. I've been bouncing around the different events here, but it looks like we may lose a few.
What have you hear from Betty Sutton and Mary Jo Kilroy and those races right now?
Betty Sutton's gonna be fine, and I haven't heard. Mary Jo Kilroy is close. Zach Space is close. John Bocherry is close. Charlie Wilson is close. So we got a bunch of in the governor's race here, which is really huge.
Yeah.
Last report had 49-47. CNN reported for Governor Strickland. So these races are all neck and neck. It's all going to come down to turnout. Ohio has built over the last since '04 a really hard-nosed turnout operation with the unions and with the Ohio Democratic Party. And it's all going to come down to turnout. I mean, we were targeting Democrats who hadn't gone to the polls up until the polls closed. Had people out knocking on doors, phone calls right until the very end, narrowing our universe of people. And we're going to find out if it pays off here tonight. But it's certainly going to be close for all of these races.
Congressman Ryan, the NBC projected a number of like 236 or 237 for the House, which would be a 58, 59 seat pickup for Republicans. But your colleagues Chris Van Hollen and Nancy Pelosi say no, it's way too fast. Van Hollen saying that the Democrats are going to hold the House. If we cut through the crap here for a second, do you have any do you expect to lose the House? What are your thoughts here?
I don't know. I mean, I got to be honest with you. I look at I've been in Ohio the last 2 months, and I've been working it hard in Ohio. So I've not I've just kind of stayed focused in what I have control over. And if I look at these Ohio races, they're all pretty close, and they could all go either way. So I think it's too early to call. And from what I've gathered talking to Chris Van Hollen and others over the past few days, we've got a really strong turnout operation in a lot of these districts, and so it's going to come down to who gets their votes out and who gets them counted. And these are just you look at how these votes come in. Are they Republican areas of the district? For example, John Bocherry, started out, he was down, 60-40. Well, that was one of the rural Republican counties that he had that came in first. So I think it's hard to tell when these races are this close. And I don't even know if we'll know tonight. I think it's going to come down to the wire. Now, I'm being honest, I don't know what's going on in Indiana. I don't know what's going on really in Pennsylvania because I haven't paid that much attention. But if those races around the country are anything like these in Ohio, it's going to go down to the wire.
Do you have news on Pennsylvania?
We got some news about your colleague Joe Sestak, Nate Silver from the New York Times, 538 blog there at the New York Times, because of the numbers which Michael has seen. Now all of a sudden Nate Silver saying Joe Sestak with a great chance of winning Pennsylvania.
Oh, that would be awesome.
With 30.
Well, there you go.
Yeah,
there you go. And I'm sure it's a huge turnout operation in Philadelphia. And how does that affect, and Philadelphia media market? How does that affect Patrick Murphy, Chris Carney? This is stuff that I think is too early to call. So, say we win Bocherry, we win Charlie Wilson, we win Betty Sutton, we win Zach Space, we hold Patrick Murphy, we hold Chris Carney. Altmaier's going to win in Western PA. You start holding these seats, all of a sudden, it gets harder. And then you win 3 or 4 seats or 5 seats that the Democrats can take from Republicans. All of a sudden, it's a new ballgame. I'm not trying to be Pollyanna, but I'm saying that these races are really, really close, and it's only 9 o'clock. So.
All right, Congressman Ryan, let's go to that point, because now people like Congressman Sestak running in that Senate race in Pennsylvania went back to the old playbook, and Obama had not done like walking around money, et cetera, which is done to get people to get out the vote, right? And you pay people to do that.
Street money.
Which happens all the time, and it's old school politics. And Sestak went back to that. And, you talk about getting out the vote, motivating people, et cetera. Did the Democratic Party not do that enough over the last 2 years as a mindset? Of course, getting out the vote is at the end of the election. But as a, hey, you know what? We got to motivate people to fight for us, to volunteer for us, et cetera, et cetera. Did we wait too much till the last 2 months? Should we have been making the case for 2 years instead of the last 2 months?
Well, I think there's going to be a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking on as far as the messaging and how we kind of, handle the process of Washington with health care and some of these other things. There's going to be plenty to go around on that. But I think from, Obama in 2008, it was just a magical time. I mean, there was so much, latent energy, if you will, build up that just exploded in 2006 and 2008 that, the walking around money, as you put it, or the kind of hard-nosed, not that Obama didn't do the member-to-member contact, because he certainly did, and he did it in Ohio, voter-to-voter contact or union-to-union contact. That all happened in Ohio in 2008, but there was just a significant amount of momentum. You fast forward 2 years into a midterm election, that part of the process. It's not like a football game where you're running back kickoffs and Brock's making these great speeches and they're throwing the long ball. Midterm elections are more like, Big Ten football, 3 yards in a cloud of dust and just moving the ball down the field. And that's what you got to do. And that takes significant investment into the ground game because you've got to have union members consistently over the course of, like you said, months and months, if not years, communicating to their members who's screwing them and who's out to support them. And that's what's happening here. And look, we're in a down economy. I mean, these races are tight. We should be getting blown. Bo Cherry should be getting blown out of the water right now, and he's neck and neck, and he's probably going to end up winning the race. Same with Zach Space, same with Charlie Wilson. I mean, these races, for all intents and purposes, if you're listening to the echo chamber in D.C., these guys shouldn't even be on the scoreboard right now, and they're battling it out. And I think that speaks to the level of ground game, certainly in Ohio, that we've put together. But that costs money, and that's the way Democrats win. We got to go nose to nose with these folks.
So, I mean, to that point, should the overall Democratic Party, the Obama White House, have made more of an effort to reach out to the unions on the issues? So get them more excited by getting them the public option or card check or one of the many things that they fought for and basically didn't get.
I think card check is nice, and I know that it's an important issue to the unions. But from my vantage point here in Ohio, we got to take on China and their unfair trade practices. We've got to make sure that the trade deals that we sign, aren't just, hanging the worker in America out to dry. I mean, these guys are pissed off because they're losing money. Their wages are down 5%. The top 1% is accounting for 23% of income in the country, when in the late 1970s it was only 9% of real income in the country. I mean, you want to talk about what the average worker in Ohio is pissed off about? That's what they're pissed off about. So all this other stuff, the card check and this stuff, it's important because it helps strengthen the unions, and I support it and voted for it in the House and everything else. But if we really want to get to the heart of the matter, we need to put, when China's dumping products, we need to take them on. When China's manipulating their currency, we got to take them on. We all know we're going to have trade, but you can't let these guys come in here and wipe out factories all over the industrial Midwest and think workers are going to go to bat for you, day in and day out during the election time. Now, they are, because Barack has put tariffs on steel tubing coming in the country, put tariffs on tires coming into the country. So I think there's been a signal, basically save the American auto industry. So there's a lot of good arguments for us to go out to the workers and say, look, this administration, this Congress has really reached out to workers in manufacturing states and save the auto industry, et cetera, et cetera. But I think if you really want to viscerally connect with the average worker, we've got to stand up to globalization that's happening too fast and losing our factories. I think card check is important, but the issue that connects with these people is the issue of trade and making sure that our trading partners are playing fair.
Let me, Congressman Ryan, let me lightly massage your shoulders with this question.
I need it.
Why are you able to make a very clear, important point in a way that the Democrats in general seem unable to make? And I don't mean for you to go like, I'm awesome.
Like, what's wrong with them?
Yeah, what's wrong with them? I mean, I got it. Like, but you said that in a way that seems to me that if it had been a campaign theme and in so many swing districts, and certainly in so many swing districts where we've seen such a significant loss of manufacturing jobs, where that kind of work is important, I don't know, it just seemed incoherent and rambling. Not from you, but from the party in general.
Yeah. Well, blind squirrel finds a nut every now and again, so I thank you for the compliment, But no, I think what we need to do and continue to do is really coordinate our message. And, President Clinton was in Youngstown a couple of days ago, and then I heard him again when he was in Kentucky about hitting 1, 2, 3 points and coordinating that message with the House, with the Senate, and with the White House, and talking about what we did with student loans, talking about making sure that there's no bailouts in Wall Street again. Just 2 or 3 simple things that the average person can go, wow, I only got to pay, up to 10% of my income back in student loans. Wow, who did that? The Democrats did that. And if we're sometimes not as disciplined as the Republicans in messaging and creating that echo chamber to where you get the national messages saying one thing, the president saying one thing, and in all these congressional districts around the country, you're saying the same thing. We got to the point where Tim Ryan and some of the Ohio guys are talking about China, and this guy's talking about military service, and this guy's talking about bailouts, and this, it doesn't connect and just create a level of energy and raising the awareness of what Democrats are talking about. So, I mean, all these, hey, listen, it's a tough election. We got a down economy. I mean, that's at the end of the day is going to be the issue, and we're going to have to learn some things from this. But
Representative Ryan, I think you, like in the 2 issues, for example, that you stated as examples, where you said, the Wall Street bailouts and the student loans. I mean, that's exactly right. I don't know why nobody talked about what I thought was the best piece of legislation you guys passed on the student loans, but and almost by far and away the best piece of legislation that was passed. And then and we were saying earlier in the program, my God, why didn't you guys run against Wall Street? People hate Wall Street. I mean, how do you make that mistake, if you ask me? So, but that leads to the most important question, which is, look, after the election, the Democrats are going to get together. President Obama, I'm sure at some point is going to talk to the House, talk to the Senate, the Democrats there, and there's going to be a decision made as to whether you fight back against these guys, against the Republicans, or whether you say, all right, let's reach out to them again, and because there's no way they're going to do your priorities, no way, right? So the question is, are you going to play ball with them and do their priorities, or are you going to fight back? What do you think is the right approach?
Fight them. I mean, I think I mean, again, this is Monday morning quarterbacking, but I'm on record of supporting this thing. I thought we should have passed health care early. We should have, used reconciliation. We should have got it through. We're in an era of partisan politics, and I understand that we want to reach across and try to massage that, but when the other side is cutting your hand off, not accepting the fig leaf, you got to change your strategy. So I look at it this way. This is hindsight, but we're going to be judged in 2 years. Let's get through what we need to get through and let the people judge us, as opposed to watering our stuff down and then getting judged on half measures. But we've had a lot of success. I agree with the president. I mean, healthcare is huge. Wall Street reform is huge. My critique on all of us, and we're all in this together, is that we should just take these stands, the tax cuts for middle class, and, we can't pass them for the wealthiest. We need to reduce the deficit, which is everyone's talking about. We need to rebuild our country. we got to ask the wealthiest, who will make a lot of money, not as much as maybe they made in the past, but we've got to rebuild our country, and we need them to step up and be patriotic and help us with this. I think we need to take on, if you're out there talking about student loans, investing in roads and bridges, and rebuilding America, let them vote against those things. And we should have just pared out the health care bill and talked about piece by piece. I said this in one of my debates with a Tea Party Republican. I said, I'm from Niles, Ohio. My grandfather was a steel worker. My grandmother worked for AFSCME. They helped put me through college with the wages they make. You send me to Congress and you tell me I can vote for a health care bill that's going to make sure 1,700 families in my district don't go bankrupt, I will vote for that every single time. You tell me that I'm going to be able to go to kids in my hometown and tell them that, they'll not get denied health care because of a pre-existing condition, I will vote for that every single time. Are you kidding me? What do you want me to do? And if you break it down like that, we win that debate. And you take it on and you don't let these guys talk about socialism and all this other stuff that they just make up as they go.
So your position is
By the way,
incredibly clear
hold
on.
on. That was awesome.
Yeah, I thought I was clear there.
I want to before Cenk asks this question, I want to say, the body's still warm here a little bit, and it may not even be a cadaver. But is there anything in your makeup, and I know that it might be unseemly to talk about this now, that would make you want to run for the leadership of the House leadership of your party, assuming there's a changing leadership?
I haven't had enough alcohol tonight.
All right.
I want to do that.
And yeah, I think you have, because by the way, you talked about offering the Republicans the fig leaf. I think you meant the olive leaf. You don't want to be given that fig leaf up, Congressman.
Although I would prefer that, actually. I would very much prefer that. All right, what I was going to ask as a final question, Congressman, is, look, your position on it is very clear, and I think we certainly agree with that position. What's the chances you convince the president to go in that direction?
Well, I mean, we're all going to sit down tomorrow and, see how things go tonight. I'm still not convinced that we lose the House. Like I said, but it's been 15 minutes, so a lot of stuff could have changed by now.
I'll tell you a couple of things. Lincoln Davis in Tennessee has lost his seat. Alan Boyd officially in Florida. Two of your congressmen, two of your colleagues, Jim Himes and Chris Murphy, are in tight races. Murphy's tighter. Himes's is unfortunately not as good, but very, very early there. Roy Blunt has won the Senate seat in Missouri. Anyway, go ahead. So just.
I don't remember what we were talking
No,
about.
so
all right, I'll keep going with results for you.
No, so
Hey,
I was saying, look, your position on it is clear, and obviously there's going to be a lot of people on your side. There's going to be people
right.
on the other side to reach out to the Republicans. A huge decision maker is obviously the president. How do you, meaning not just you, but your side, convince the president to fight instead of continually reaching out to the Republicans?
Well, I think, if things keep trending the way they are, I mean, we're going to have to sit down and completely reevaluate. And, the Republicans are going to be in charge of the House. Their right wing is going to control the agenda. I think it's not going to be hard to convince anybody that we got to take them on, because their budgets are going to be so outrageous. They're going to pass Paul Ryan's budget. That's going to be something that's really going to be a clear choice for the American people. Medicare vouchers and Social Security privatization and all of those other things, those are pretty clear for us. I mean, and so I think Obama's a brilliant guy. He's going to be able to take that on. We still got the bully pulpit. I think we all should go back and probably read Bill Clinton's book and see how he handled it, and maybe, we can avoid a few landmines here. But, I think we are, you got these guys saying they don't even want to compromise on any, and I thought Jon Stewart outlined it very good. You go, then I go. You go, then I go. We're not there in America right now. And I know he tried to do that and explain that, but these guys are not going to compromise. And, guess where the American people are going to side? Where they should have been siding if we were clear in our arguments in this election. But they will come back home, and they're not going to want to privatize Medicare and Social Security. And they'll come back home, and we'll have gridlock, and then we'll have a big fight in 2 years.
Thanks, Congressman Ryan. Just to send you out the door, Nate Silver at 538.com says there's a 95% chance, at 538 in the New York Times blog, says that 95% chance of a Republican takeover in the House now. But a really good night for things look particularly good still for Joe Sestak and for Ted Strickland. So there you go.
Yeah, I mean, and you brought it up too. I mean, Strickland, one of his main issues was John Kasich's, was on the board of directors of Lehman Brothers, and Ted Strickland flat out hammered this guy.
I love that.
Well, see, that's what we. Why
That's
could that?
exactly
Why
what
could
we
that
were
not have
talking
been
about.
a refrain
Right,
in unison from the entire party, from everyone who's running tonight?
I mean,
why could they not have all been hammering him like
Wall Street, and it was exactly what this guy had done, and he wouldn't release his tax returns, and Ted hammered him. And the last commercial was, Kasich backpedaling when he started running for governor, saying, I never worked on Wall Street. I worked in a two-man office in Columbus, Ohio. And then 3 clips from Fox News of him arrogantly saying, I work on Wall Street, and then making his point. I work on Wall Street. Hey, I said 3 times this week, I work on Wall Street. Totally showing the contradiction and the fact that he didn't release his tax returns. We got to play offense. That's just the way this got to go.
That's a perfect way to wrap this up. We got to play some offense. All right, Congressman Tim Ryan, great pleasure talking to you tonight. Thank you for joining us.
See you guys. Keep up the great work.
Thanks,
Thank
Congressman.
you. Can I just take a quick note here to say how much I love that interview?
Yeah, no, he's awesome.
Okay. And you know me, I don't say that after every interview. And we hadn't talked to Congressman Ryan in a while, so I wasn't sure where his head was at. His head's in the right place.
It's also a reminder of, especially in this time, of how we need to be careful with the issues and why it's so hard to be a Democrat, because he's pro-life.
Right.
And so they're going to be, no matter the fact that this guy would make a great leader.
Yeah.
So is Harry Reid.
That's exactly what we were saying to Sirota. The exact same thing you're saying right now.
So let it go, man. Yeah, I got it. He's pro-life. Right. Be in charge.
No, and look, remember what I always say is that I want to get back to a country where we're having pro-life, pro-choice debates.
Right.
That's a perfectly acceptable debate.
Yeah.
We obviously come out very clearly on one side, but what we care so much more about is that the system is so corrupt, we're not having honest debates anymore, right? We're having, both sides agree to, the Wall Street should get the money, right? And that it's a great thing to work on Lehman Brothers. And here is some people in Ohio, and my guess is partly because Ohio feels the pain so much more, right? Because Ohio is one of the states that's most hurt by this recession. So Democrats on the ground there, soldiers on the ground saying, hey, you know what? I got a great idea. Why don't we run against the sons of bitches on Wall Street?
Of course, but I mean, yes, and you're right. And we're all going to agree here. And it resonates, and we're all making the same point. I'm just taking it to the next step. So okay, great. It's Ohio where it's feeling it most. They're not feeling it in Nevada.
Oh,
They're not feeling it.
Nevada's a disaster.
It's just as painful everywhere
in the
as
Sun
it is
Belt,
in Ohio.
and it's just, it's frustrating, and the inability. Anyway, so Nate Silver now has it the same way everybody else does, is that he now projects 237 seats. So Chris Van Hollen can say what he wants, and hopefully they'll be proven correct. But right now we're at about 60 seats, 59 seats. He says 95% chance of a takeover, but it's down to 1% in the Senate. They're not going to win the Senate.
Okay, look, as far as what Van Hollen says, he's the head of the Democratic re-election effort, in the House. Take what he says, not with a little bit of salt, not with a granite of salt. Take it with a continent of salt.
But he also wants people to keep voting in other states.
He wants people to keep
Hawaii's
voting.
first district is a big race tonight.
In fact, the media
that's
will
a pickup for us.
Yeah, it's a pickup.
Well, you expect a guy like Van Hollen, I don't mean because he's a Democrat or anything like that, just a guy in that position, Democrat or Republican, to lie to you tonight. He's supposed to lie to you tonight.
Right.
He's supposed to say, we're going to do great. We got to get out the vote. La la la. We're going to win. That's his job. That's okay.
And it's not just you mentioned it's not just Hawaii, but the 20th district out here in California. You got a moderate Democrat, Jim Costa, and then a woman who we've had on the show who could easily lose tonight, Loretta Sanchez. Easily lose tonight.
Yeah, and Jerry McNerney could too.
Yeah, right, and Jerry McNerney could too. So we got, there's important seats that Democrats are holding that where obviously turnout matters, which of course would explain, that Jerry McNerney in the 11th.
And
and the third also, Dan Lundgren,
Right,
back
which is
running against a surprisingly effective Democrat, Ami Bera.
It is surprising that that's happening. In Florida is a disaster tonight. Virginia is a disaster.
Yeah.
Florida is really it looks like none of those races are going to go the Democrats' way. I mean, Ron Klein has not been called. He's well down, but they haven't really, for some reason, they're counting in terms, they haven't counted as many ballots in his district as they have in the rest of the state. Right now, Connecticut is very tight for Chris Murphy. With due respect to the congressman, maybe he knows things we don't, but all of those Ohio races that he was talking about, look, with the exception of Betty Sutton, they look terrible. And so I think, there's not a sniff of a lot of things going right in the House right now.
All right, but let me tell you something. So and by the way, if there was any quote-unquote prediction made, and not as an official prediction, but as a sense of how things are going to go, we did say on the show the House would be a disaster, and the Senate would be not so bad.
Right.
And that's almost exactly what's happening.
That's what's happening.
Right.
No,
So
Senate's pretty bad. It's just because of our
expectations.
Yeah.
No, I get you on
But
that.
it could be. We could get. I mean, if we win Colorado, if we win Pennsylvania, things that are not. We're not speaking. In as he said, in a Pollyanna-ish way. These are things that are reasonable. It's reasonable to expect that they may happen, and then Nevada is reasonable to expect that.
Now, let me tell you something. If everything else goes poorly, the House gets washed out. By the way, CNN also reporting the Republicans have taken the House, right? So,
everybody's reporting.
right.
Yeah.
So that's
You know why?
Because
Because the Republicans have taken the House.
Right. So that's that. Here, if you like, it's official. TYT concurs. The Republicans have taken the House. But what I was going to say is, if Sestak and Feingold pull it out, we walk away a winner.
Yeah. I
Okay.
don't,
Okay. Now, of course, a massive loss. I'm saying, relative to what could have happened and to our expectations, etc. I mean, I'd feel at the end of the night, given our expectations, I'd feel ecstatic if Sestak and Feingold won.
Here's an interesting race that may end up the other way, and as far as how it progresses, Alexei Giannoulias has been leading all night against
Mark Kirk.
Mark Kirk. I keep wanting to call him Ron Kirk. Why do I keep wanting to call him Ron Kirk?
Because
that guy
Ron
in
Kirk
Texas?
was the mayor of Dallas
Mayor
who
of
ran
Dallas,
against
Phil
John
Graham?
Cornyn.
John Cornyn. So Mark Kirk from the 10th district, I think, in Illinois. Giannoulias has been leading all night. He's currently up by 7 points with 45% of the precincts reporting, which means obviously Giannoulias could win that race. But actually, we do know where those results have come from, and a lot of them from Cook County, Chicago. So that will tighten. But
in favor of Mark Kirk.
In favor of Kirk, but nonetheless. And by the way, significantly, for what it's worth, I think 68% of the precincts, something in there. Marco Rubio is at 50. So, even if you were to, and granted the dynamics would have changed, but even if you right now were to add Charlie Crist and Kendrick Meek, you'd still have fewer votes than Rubio.
Right.
Is there any argument to be made that Meek should have dropped out of the race?
No, that's what we're talking about.
Well,
There's an overwhelming argument. Yes.
Yeah, there's an argument that he should have dropped out. He probably should have dropped out. New England is being kind of funny. Barney Frank has won. That's official. Barney Frank is going to Congress. Yeah. But Patrick Kennedy, his seat, he's retiring from the Congress, the 1st District in Rhode Island, right now with 35% reporting. A little less than 35% reporting. The Republican there, who is excuse me, they just changed it again here on the AP. Nobody's been called there, but the Democrat is now ahead by 7.1%.
The Democrat is.
The Democrat is. Yeah, no. It literally, as I'm watching it here, they switched it, and same with the 2nd District there. Jim
I would name
Lanza.
another city for Pawtucket, which just came in there.
Yeah, Warwick.
Yeah, Warwick. There you go. Well.
All right. I've decided that we're going to have a fun announcement in 3 minutes that is unrelated to the elections. Fun announcement coming up in 3 minutes. But I wanted to touch on something that Congressman Ryan said during our interview. He said, look, the Republicans are going to propose some terrible things, and we have to fight back against that, right? Yeah. And so one of the things that they're going to propose is something called Cut Go, right? It's their version of Pay Go. Now, what the Democrats did was pay as you go. So if you want to be deficit neutral, so if something is going to add to the deficit, you have to take away something from the deficit. Now, you could have either cut spending or raised taxes, but you have to be deficit neutral either way, right? Now, Cut Go is you're not allowed to raise taxes. If you want to add something, you have to cut spending from somewhere else. Mike Pence, was laughing up a storm about this, going, we'll pit those, liberal interests against one another, those big government folks, and let them fight it out. Ha, 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 ha. And maybe we'll decide we don't need either of them, right? Kind of just like that. And so I think that's disastrous in and of itself because you've cut off half of the equation.
Right, and it's incredibly simple, too. It's this notion that you can't raise taxes, but that also means you can't, continue to give companies gigantic tax breaks for moving their headquarters offshore.
No, that's exactly right. Now, here comes the second half, which is even more disastrous. But they remove tax cuts from this requirement. So meaning they don't have to be deficit neutral. You can do tax cuts all day long, and if it means that you get a bigger deficit, who cares?
Yeah.
So then you're not balancing the budget at all.
No,
you've just totally given up on balancing the budget. And so then at the end of the day, if they actually succeeded in getting those passed, which we hope they won't, right, then you would have a much larger deficit and then go, that goddamn big government liberals.
What's it called?
Cutco.
Cutco. So it's cut, go, fuck yourself. Really, that's what it stands for. It's a shortened version of that.
That's what Cutco's
short for. Yeah.
Okay. So, that is one of many disastrous things we have ahead with the Republicans. And of course, one of the things we'll discuss a little later in the night is the idea of, how much of these will actually pass. What will any Democratic priorities get passed? Energy, cap and trade, that's already gone. But immigration reform, et cetera. And will Obama veto all these Republican efforts, or will he just say, I want to seem like a nice guy, I'm going to let 3 or 4 of them pass?
One of the great things about this, the only great thing about this, is that from a political point of view, Democrats who've been on the defensive and backing up, they're not going to have to back up so much. It's going to be because the Republicans will now, instead of standing in unified 178 voters again, they'll actually have to, as Tim Ryan said, they'll actually have to do stuff. And the stuff that they do will suck. And it will be harder to defend, and all of a sudden they're going to start talking about cutting Social Security. And as soon as they start doing that, well, all of a sudden you've made it incredibly easy for us.
Except that Obama's going to agree with them.
But Cenk, here's the thing: they're also at the same time dividing their party. Here begins the time when we've seen it in an electoral way, but here now in a legislative way, they're going to have their party is going to divide in certain ways, or they're going to push themselves so far to one.
Yeah,
that's true.
They can't help it. And now that when they start proposing stuff and they start taking votes and they start counting numbers, they'll get exposed. They didn't have to do anything. Nobody challenged on it. They didn't propose anything.
Yeah. Now, I want to come back to that issue because it's very important, but I promised an announcement at 7 o'clock. The Young Turks in October hit 20 million views.
Wow.
On YouTube alone.
Wow.
What's disappointing is that our Republican opponents had 21 million. We've been defeated tonight, but we stood proud. We gave it a shot.
Yeah. Now, with the elections, that's how it would have gone. But the election online is decidedly progressive. Okay. Yeah. In fact, if you combine all the progressives on YouTube and online shows all combined,
that is unbelievable.
They wouldn't come close to just the Young Turks numbers. So when you're talking about how the people have spoken in terms of online viewing and which program they choose to believe and trust and watch and come back to, it is the Young Turks, it is the TYT Army. It's a huge progressive win. And the good thing about that, as we talk about the elections tonight, is that we are the future. They can't even begin to compete with us in terms of ideas. And that's why when they do conservative shows online, they're laughed off and gather no significant audience whatsoever. So the Democrats might lose tonight overall, but I got a message for the Republicans. We're coming. In fact, we're already here. 20 million. What are you going to do about it?
We already
20
came.
million strong.
We already came, and now we'd like to take a nap. Joe Sestak at a 6-point lead, 53-47, as we close in on 50%.
6-point lead for Joe Sestak. How many people reporting? How many?
About
percent?
50, just under 50.
Oh.
Is
that blue I see? Is that blue I see? Is that hope I feel? Oh, no, don't do it to me, Ben. You know what this feels like? This feels like Rotis. Like when you play fantasy football and you think you're not going to pull it out on Monday night, but all of a sudden it's getting closer and closer and you got 3 field goals you didn't expect, and your guy caught a touchdown, and you were down 37, but now you're down only 11, and you still got a quarter and a half to go, and you get that hope, and then, oh, no.
We were
there you did it again. You did it again.
Michael and I are in a league.
That never works out.
Michael, well, just to be clear, Michael and I were in a league together, an expensive league that we share a team in last night, and we had a huge lead. We were playing. One of the players we were playing against was Arian Foster of the Texans. This is a league that gives you a point for every catch. And man, in the last 2 drives that they had, all they did was throw 5-yard passes.
It was crazy.
It was agony. So you'd be like, oh, we're up 108 to 78, 81, 84, 88, 91, 92, 93, 94, 10. And they're like on the last drive, it's 105, 106, 107. It was like 107.8 to 107.
It was so exciting.
And then Matt Shaw got sacked and fumbled.
And
so
then
you guys won.
And then we won.
But
that proves my point.
That's exactly right.
Exactly.
Here we are.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Yeah.
I think, one thing, unfortunately, the pollsters seem to have been having a good season. I mean, everything that the polling seems
Except
pretty.
Sestak.
Well, let's
So
see.
far.
Come on. Except Sestak and Giannoulias. Oops.
Oh, right. Except Sestak and Giannoulias, they're right.
Yeah. No, but on Giannoulias, I always have trouble with that. The Kirk race, they thought it was going to be close, and the Kirk had a slight lead. I mean, so they're not wrong.
There was the reason that that again it was projected by most to go Democratic, but on a less positive nature.
Oh, you think so? What I read, Republican.
No. Sorry, I misspoke. To go Republican, but not obviously, because there was a strange number, more so than in any other race, of stayed undecided. Like even right up till the end, you couldn't. Between them, they were like 90%. You had like 10% undecided. And Michael and I had both thought that, well, in a significantly Democratic state with that many undecided, he's a good bet to pick up the majority of those. Giannoulias, and 48% in, he's up 75,000 votes. Long way to go, but Giannoulias is up 75,000 votes.
Tim Kaine has conceded what House Democratic leaders have yet to acknowledge.
He was also defeated. He's the head of the Democratic National Committee, and in a shocking upset, he was also defeated by a Republican today.
Listen to what he leads with. We're likely to end up with a Democrat in the White House.
Oh, really? That's likely.
Awesome.
It's not even certain. It's just likely.
Comma, with maybe a majority of Republican governors. A Democratic Senate, a Republican House, Kaine said on NBC News. It's a tough night for us in the House.
Okay.
52-48, Sestak's lead down to 4 percentage points with 52% in. He's up by 96,000.
I have him down 52.2 to 47.8 with 64.5%.
All right, so what was it, 52.?
52.2 to 47.8.
All right, so he
4 and change with 64.5%.
So he's held his lead basically through 12 more percent. That's good. It's starting to be the Tom Perriello rule of the night. It's getting be hard for Toomey to make that up. He's closer. But
Feingold off to a tough start.
Terrible start.
Terrible start, but it's early. And
all right, give us the numbers. It's okay.
He's down 18.3% with 14.8 reporting.
That's a tough start. It's a tough start. But Madison and Milwaukee haven't reported
and
yet.
that's all. Those numbers are all out of lacrosse. So,
okay.
But it's not a great night yet for Russ Feingold.
Come on, Wisconsin. I got hope in you, man. I saw Wisconsin. There was a lot of libs there. Come on, work with us. All right. Let's time for absurd theories. Okay, that's that time in the night.
What county is Milwaukee? Do you know?
Waukesha County. I'm not sure.
All right.
And that sounds right because it sounds so Wisconsin. Okay. Anyway, I have no idea. Time for absurd theories of the night. Why are the Democrats doing? And I don't have one actually, by the way. Let me throw this out as a thing. As it currently stands, as it looks, why are the Democrats doing better in statewide races like the Senate seats, as opposed to the district-by-district seats where they're getting hammered in the House?
Well, I want you. What's your absurd thought of the night? That's a question.
No, that's a good question, and it's such a good question that I don't even have an absurd theory yet.
You know, I mean, you got to remember. I mean, first of all, not every Senate seat is up, and obviously, if every Senate seat were up, we could well be taking a giant bath. Of the, I think, 37 Senate seats that are up, they're going to win at a percentage pretty close to what they're winning in the House. It just seems less dramatic, but I mean, we had 60% of the Senate, and we're going to get that knocked down significantly. And the House, what was our number there? It was less than, at 255 to 178, it's less than 60%, or I guess it's pretty close to that.
If you do those numbers, and I didn't realize math would be involved tonight, but I think that the percentage change in the House is significantly more than the percentage change in the Senate. Am I getting that wrong?
Yeah, I think you're getting that wrong. I mean, no, there's going to be a significant change, but again, every seat is up. Let me put it to you this way, because it's not the change. I'm saying of the seats that are up in the Senate,
I see what you're saying.
of the seats that are up in the Senate, the percentage is going to be about the same.
I see. So you have to think about it. Even if the Republicans only pick up 6 seats, is what Ben is saying, is it's not really 6 out of 100. They're picking up 6 out of the 37 that are in play.
Right. Exactly.
So and then that it's a much
right.
larger.
All of a sudden, you're 22 and 15. And that's pretty similar to what they're looking at in the. It may even be more.
Texas Democrat Chet Edwards has lost.
It's a blue dog.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, he's a very
blue dog.
as blue a dog as
he's a red dog.
Yeah. He's almost purple.
Yeah.
He's a dead dog.
So look, let me throw another silver lining out there. I mean, we partly talked about it earlier, but if you lose a lot of these blue dogs, I mean, Obama, I thought one of his principal errors was that he spent way too much time trying to appease the blue dogs.
Well,
right? It wasn't that he didn't want to fight the Republicans. It's that when the conservative Democrats would come and say, "Oh, no, Mr. President, we can't have that," I felt he gave in to them more than he gave in to the Republicans.
Well, that's true, but if you subscribe to Howard Dean's 50-state strategy, as I know you do, part of that strategy means that you're going to be electing blue dog Democrats to the Senate, to the House, and to the Senate. You're going to be chasing because those are the types of Democrats that win in certain districts in certain states. So it's sort of like you can't have your cake and eat it. If you're going to get that majority, you're going to have to suffer the fact that you have blue dogs, which is something the Democrats. It's a built-in problem that they have that the Republicans don't have in such a strong way. I mean, they have
They used to have it, but
they used to have
all
it,
those people got driven out of the party.
Yeah.
Like you.
No, I hear you, but you know what? Then we're going to have to deal with this other corollary then. The Republicans and Rush Limbaugh certainly tomorrow will claim we were right. We had to go further right. And look at this, massive victories when we went further right. How do you counter that?
Yeah, you counter that by saying we tried to appease and we got crushed.
Right. So, but to the point that I think Rush is half right, right?
Yes,
which is
sure.
If you stand on principle, that's more appealing to voters.
Yeah,
right? And I've made that point all the time, which is, people like strengthen their leaders. Bush had almost nothing else going for him.
Right.
Except he would stand his effing ground.
No, you're right. I mean, if there was reasonableness at either end, at their end, then there might be reasonableness at our end. But I mean, then there could be an argument for that. But when they have none, everybody keeps talking about all these pollsters and analysts say the country is incredibly divided. Well, then I would say to Democrats, fucking act like it's divided.
That goes to my unilateral disarmament point.
Yeah.
They always disarm before. And look, and if you're asking what's the distinction, why is Rush wrong and we're right when we say stand on principle and Rush says the same thing? What's very important is the political spectrum, right? So if Rush was saying that when the Democrats were ascendant in the 1960s, even the 1970s, then I would say, politically speaking, he was quite right,
Yeah.
at that time. But now the spectrum has shifted so far to the right that if the Republicans go any further right, and that's what's going to happen when they try to legislate now, right? They're going to fall off the cliff, right? And I think that's what's going to happen, right? And Delaware is another good example. They're so far right that when they went further right in Delaware, they fell off the cliff.
And they literally, they have no moderating influence. Like,
that's the
who's
problem.
it going to be? They literally have none. Like, I don't think we need to worry about whether they're going to fall off the cliff. They don't know how to do anything but fall off the cliff because they don't think it's a cliff.
Right. And so, and then when you come to our side, if we're telling them to go further left, that's because we got a lot of room on the left.
Yeah.
We can still go miles that way and not hit the center, right?
Right.
So
and stop pretending that just because they say we're all the way left when we're bumping up against the middle.
Yeah. That we
don't,
are.
Don't
right.
listen. Right. You don't have to listen to them. But I think I stumbled into. I mean, the idea that we know the country's divided, and it's like that's not. It's like that we refuse to accept it. No, they're not that far. No. The country's not divided.
Yeah.
And we'll keep. Come on.
And here's the thing, in the United States Senate, whenever Democrats want to get something done, they have two people that they can go to. They can go to Susan Collins and they can go to Olympia Snowe, and that's it. when the Republicans want to get something done, they have a handful of people who will sit down and do that. And I think that we have to say, no, we're not going to sit down with you until until who breaks first. But the point is, they're able to do it and make us look like we're soft. We're unable to do it, and they're able to write off Susan Collins and Olympia Snowe.
I wonder what would happen. Sorry, Nick, but what would happen to that point if, with a smaller, more united caucus, if we really, really, really told the Blue Dogs no go ahead, vote with them, or don't vote with them. But here's where we stand, and if you might lose next time, we don't care. Because from a longer range point of view, if we fought hard with a smaller caucus, would that eventually, I know you think it would that change the dynamic enough if we just stopped trying to court?
Well, not only do I think, of course, that would change the dynamic, or do I think that that's the right strategy, but I think that strategy would work. I think it would change the dynamic, and I think changing that dynamic is, as I said before, is more important than the number of votes we have, right? So now, will they do that? I'm skeptical, but I tell you, the other part of the tonight that I was encouraged is, again, Representative Ryan. Apparently, there are voices in the Democratic caucus, and Representative Ryan is not known as the most progressive guy, okay? These are guys that are in the middle of the party who are now saying, what are we, stupid? Right? Let's go. Let's put on some gloves or take off the gloves, but let's get to work either way, right?
Put on some gloves.
Because, put on the gloves to go boxing.
Yeah.
But then
then you fall into a little bit of the trap of, like, we sit here and we criticize how the Republicans behave and what they do and how unbecoming it is and how ineffective it is in the big picture. I mean, not in the political picture, but just in the productivity picture, for them to walk in lockstep with one another. And we're trying to get ourselves to walk in lockstep with one another. But we're not. That's a trap that we could fall into.
But we're not asking to. I don't object so much. I half admire their walking in lockstep together, but they're walking in lockstep together saying that evolution isn't real and that the global warming isn't real, and with an incredibly divisive politics that make us be afraid of Muslims, make us be afraid of immigrants, and that's only because they got tired of making us be afraid of black people, which they'll, of course, come back to. So, yeah, it's just because we do the same thing, it's going to be different.
It's about different things, but also that trickles down with them to the way they legislate, forgetting how crazy the crazy stuff is. When you get to the stuff that's supposed to be mundane and important, not to say that those things aren't important, but I guess pertinent at the moment, they still behave the same way, and that's on legislation, and that's where we get screwed every single time.
But I never minded that the Republicans fought together, right? And I made that point all the time, even as they were, the party of no, and et cetera, et cetera. Because I have said on many occasions, look, I wish the Democrats were that united in opposition to Bush, which they weren't. They weren't even close.
I agree with you, and on that I will always agree with you. But their intolerance of any deviation at any time, I don't think is necessarily something to emulate.
Look, I know. And if I was a senator or a congressman, I wouldn't go lockstep with the party, right? I might think that it's a smart strategy, and I might do it a majority of the time, but I certainly wouldn't do it all the time. In fact, the guy we admire most, Feingold, doesn't go lockstep at all. Right? Very independent, has crossed over more times than he's among the top 6 senators, period, Republican or Democrat, that have crossed over to the other side, right? Very controversial votes against the Democratic Party, including the decision to continue Bill Clinton's trial, okay? I mean, so that's how independent he is, and that's how much he's gone against the party. I love that guy. That's my top guy. But as a party, strategy-wise, again, we look at the spectrum, right? Where the Republicans are on this side totally united, and the Democrats are on this side totally dispersed. I would tighten up here a little bit, and I would loosen up a little bit.
It's not, and
we're not
talking about tightening up the party discipline just to tighten up the party discipline. We're talking about having a message and having ideas and risking stuff for those ideas, and say, we'd love you to come along. Obviously, people are going to drift off, but we can't cater to the people who are drifting off. You want to drift off, what I was essentially saying is, drift off.
Right.
But this is where we stand.
But we're not going to change our position to suit you so you don't drift off.
Right. Here's the deal.
And that's enormously important.
We're going to have,
because that's how we watered down all the bills in the last 2 years.
Right. We're going to have a public option. We're going to have derivatives reform. That's what we're going to have. We're going to help you sell that to your constituents. We're going to do everything we can to help you. But if you don't want a part of it, then don't be a part of it. They are able to do that. I don't think we give up the ideas to force discipline. We're talking about idea discipline.
And you know, the other thing is, Democrats have to learn from tonight that had they done this, they may have lost. Had they done all these things, they may have lost. They probably would have lost a number of seats. But the point is, lose fighting what you want to fight for, and then you're not. You know, then you'll see that there's a chance to reemerge again later. But
and you'll lose less because you'll actually make your case.
You'll make your case, and you'll also make change, and you're going to lose sometimes. And there are cycles to this, as there always are. But but the point I'm making is that they have to take that lesson from tonight, which is that they can go ahead and they can these types of losses happen, and they'll still be okay. The Democrats are still going to be okay, but at least fight for what you need to fight for, which is what the Republicans are learning tonight too.
All right, let's take a quick break here, all right? We're going to come back really quick here, and then when we come back, more results and more great guests for you guys to now start talking about as we see more of the results, evaluating it and which direction things are going to go. So come right back. Young Turks Election Night coverage.